Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to explain how to test the EVAP solenoid valve in case you have P0444 fault code or P0445, which are relevant to EVAP solenoid valve. So if this solenoid valve is faulty, not only it will set the fault code and you will have the check engine light on, but also it will affect the engine performance as well by making the fuel mixture rich or lean. So as you see, this is my EVAP. It does have a connector right here. It is located on the intake manifold right after the throttle body. So I removed some part to make it easier for you guys to locate this part. This is my throttle body, and right after the throttle body I have my EVAP solenoid located. So what happens, normally the fuel paper from the fuel tank will be absorbed by charcoal canister, and from this hose it will be provided to this solenoid valve. So when this solenoid valve is not activated, there is no connection between this hose and the intake manifold. But whenever ECM decides, it will activate the solenoid valve to release the fuel vapor from here to the intake manifold. By doing this, we are not actually releasing the fuel vapor into the air, which is going to make obviously air pollution, and we are actually using the fuel vapor inside the engine. So in this video, I'm gonna check the wiring diagram for this solenoid valve first. Then we inspect the solenoid valve on the engine to see how we can do it on the engine before removing the solenoid valve itself. And then we're gonna remove the solenoid valve to see how we can test it, or how we can actuate the EVAP solenoid valve after removing it from the engine. So as you see on this car, when I try to read the codes for engine, I get P0444 for canister purge control solenoid valve. Okay, let's start by having a look at the wiring diagram to see how we can do the troubleshooting on the car. So first of all, this is the wiring diagram for EVAP canister volume control valve. As you see, this solenoid valve comes with 2 pins. I do have the parts here right now, so to explain the wiring diagram easier, as you see there are only 2 pins on the EVAP because there is a solenoid valve inside, and ECM can control the solenoid valve by controlling these 2. We actually have pin number 1, which is coming from the ECM relay. So actually this one is the main power supply, and because it's coming from the fuse box, this one should be 12 volt. So when you are inspecting the solenoid valve on the engine, when ignition switch is on, if you inspect here on this point, you should have battery voltage on this point. And the other one, pin number 2, is actually connected to the ECM. This is the control line, and whenever ECM wants to activate the solenoid valve, it will provide this ground, and this solenoid valve will be activated. So this one is positive, this one is negative. So between those 2, it's really easy to find out. So pin number 1, it comes with a green wire, as you see, G for green, and pin number 2 with a pink wire. So it's really easy to spot them with the wire color: green for the power and pink for the control line or ground. So the first thing that we need to do, we can check the connector to make sure the connector is securely connected in place. If it is loose, you just need to remove it to check inside the connector to make sure there is no contamination, no moisture, nothing inside the connector. If there is, obviously you have to clean the connector and put it back in and try to erase the code. This hose must be checked as well. This is the one bringing the fuel vapor from the canister to the valve. If there is anything wrong with this, if this fuel is broken, obviously you will smell fuel from the engine bay, and obviously the EVAP system is not going to work efficiently anymore. So you need to remove this one. As you see, there are 2 wires. If you remember, the green one is actually the power supply, which is coming from the ECM relay, and the pink one is connected to the ECM, which is the control line. So here is my multimeter. I select voltage, I put the black lead on a good ground, and I'll check the power supply on the green wire. As you see, I'm getting the battery voltage, which is okay. If you are not getting anything, it means this wire is shorted to ground, or it is open, or maybe the fuse which is providing the power after the relay, maybe that fuse is broken. So you're gonna need to check if there's any fuse providing this power supply to the actuator. For the control line itself, for the pink wire, you can just find the other end of the pink wire on the ECM side and check the continuity between this pin and the ECM. So obviously, if continuity is provided, it means this wire is okay. But if there is no continuity, it means the control line between EVAP solenoid and the ECM is already broken, it's already open, that you need to chase the wiring and find the fault and fix it. But if there is nothing wrong on the connector, on the power supply, and on the control line, you can go to the next step for inspecting the EVAP solenoid itself. So I'm going to remove the EVAP solenoid right now, and we go for testing the components. Check the internal resistance, because inside this one we actually have one solenoid to activate the valve itself. So what we can do, we need to select the resistance on multimeter. We're gonna need to check the resistance across these two pins. So just put one probe here and the other lead just right there and read the resistance. So for this one is 33 ohms, which is okay. For this valve, it's okay. So obviously you need to check your workshop manual for your own car to see what's the specification. But in this range, it means our valve is okay. Normally, if it is faulty, if it is shorted inside, you will get something really low. You will get a low resistance. If it is open, you will get a really high reading. All right, so even if you don't have the workshop manual, if your reading is too low or too high, it means this valve is faulty. Sometimes the solenoid itself works, but the valve is already stuck, so it doesn't move. Even if the solenoid valve works, the interior valve doesn't move by the magnetic field created by the solenoid. So we're gonna need to check it to make sure if the mechanical part of the solenoid is working as well or not. If you have a tester like this, it's super easy to test it. This is actually what I have made. It's really easy, just two clamps and a 9-volt battery. It's really safe to test the components using something like this. Just piece of wires, one switch, 2 clamps and 1 battery. How we can do it? You just need to connect these 2 clamps to positive and negative, and when switch is on, you need to blow into this port. If you see air goes through, it means the mechanical part of the valve is working. But if air doesn't go through, if there is blockage, it means valve is faulty and you have to replace it. So what I do, I provide these 2. Okay, already provided. It's already off. On. Off. Okay, you saw the difference? This one was okay actually. That's why anytime that I activated the switch, air was going through the valve. But when it was off, no air passage. So this is how we can check the solenoid operation to make sure if it is completely working or not. All right, everyone. So this was basically how we can test the canister solenoid valve to make sure if it is faulty or not, in case that you have P0444 and P0445 fault code. So if you have any fault in all these steps, if you have the power supply not provided, you need to check any fuse or the wiring which provides the power supply. If the ground is not provided, it means there is an open circuit between the valve itself and ECM. And after removal, when you are checking the resistance, if you get something really high or really low, it means the solenoid valve itself is faulty. And when we activate it, if you see after activation air goes through, it means the mechanical part of the valve is working as well. Otherwise, there is a blockage, or that valve is already stuck and is not moving. So couple of steps for checking the wiring and couple of steps for checking the valve itself. Thank you very much everyone for watching. I hope you find the video helpful and you can use it for diagnosing your car.